We are talking about newborn adaptations, continuing on with the gastrointestinal system adaptations.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the rest of the body system adaptations in this video. We'll start with the GI system. So in the GI system, there's a development of a mucosal barrier to prevent the penetration of harmful substances. Physiological capacity of the newborn stomach is considered less than the anatomic capacity. So the newborn stomach is about the size of a walnut, and it doesn't stretch for the first few days. So we have to be really careful not to overfeed. The cardiac sphincter and the nervous control of the stomach are immature, which often lead to regurgitation and uncoordinated peristaltic activity. It is the relaxed cardiac sphincter that leads to this regurgitation. So the cardiac sphincter and the nervous control of the stomach are immature, which will then lead to uncoordinated peristaltic activity and frequent regurgitation. So this is just what this all means is that we need to burp the baby regularly. We need to put the baby in a position that will prevent the regurgitation, right? So we're going to sit our babies up a little bit more to burp. Even for bottle feeding, we usually raise them just a little bit more to prevent that regurgitation. We want to make sure that we're burping the baby after every feeding to minimize regurgitation. Most digestive enzymes are available at birth, but they're limited in their ability to digest complex carbs and fats. So this could result in fatty stools and regurgitation. Also, an underdeveloped pyloric sphincter, and that can contribute to reflux or regurgitation. In order for the baby to gain weight, the newborn requires an intake of 108 calories per kilogram a day from birth to about 6 months of age. All right, let's talk about baby poop. So meconium is that baby's first stool. It's dark, it's green or black, it's tarry. And then we move into a transitional stool, which will change depending on if the baby's breastfed or formula fed. So breastfed will be more yellow, like gold. It's loose, it's stringy, and it's kind of has pasty stools. And then formula fed is a little bit more yellow green and loose. This has a little bit more of a smell than breastfed. Breastfed stool doesn't have too much of a smell. It is important that we do an intake and output on our newborns. So this is something that mom or the family members do. Demonstrate to mom to record all the wet diapers. Every time she changes a pee diaper, it needs to be recorded. And then same with a stool diaper. If you guys go and do a baby bath and you notice a wet diaper or a stool diaper, you need to make sure you tell your nurse. Parents should be keeping a running tally throughout the day and even at home for the first couple weeks. So we need to educate them that they need to kind of be aware of what's the output, like how many diapers are they peeing and how much are they pooping each day. And this will let us know if they're getting enough nutrients. With bottle fed, they need to count the ounces. How many ounces did the baby eat? In breastfed babies, mom should document how long the newborn fed on each breast. So this should be all documented during their hospital stay. And this is just to make sure the baby's getting enough nutrients and getting enough to eat in the first few days.
So the neonate's stool, the first few days of life, is called meconium. Why would it be milk? That's crazy.
It's especially important in our breastfed babies since we don't know exactly how much is coming out. So renal system, the newborns have a limited ability to concentrate urine until about 3 months of age. And that leads to urine having a low specific gravity. We expect about 6 to 8 voids per day. That's considered normal. This typically takes about a week to get to this. But we want to see at least 1 void in that first 24 hours. And then a low glomerular filtration rate and limited excretion and conservation capability. This affects the newborn's ability to excrete salt, water loads, and drugs. And this is why it's super important to be mindful about what medicines are safe to give to the baby. Infants are more susceptible to dehydration and overload due to the ability to concentrate urine, and then also their reduced glomerular filtration rate. In the immune system,
Is it normal for a newborn to have 6 to 8 wet diapers? Didn't we just say that was true? Am I right? Correct.
in the immune system, the babies will have natural immunity, which consists of physical barriers such as skin, chemical barriers, and resident non-pathologic organisms. They also get acquired immunity. This is development of circulating immunoglobulins and formation of lymphocytes. So they're typically absent until after the first invasion of a foreign organism or toxin. The newborn is primarily dependent on 3 immunoglobulins as their initial immune system: IgG, IgA, and IgM. Maternal.
Okay, I wanted to go over this again. This is interesting. So, we're talking about immunity or immune system adaptation. So, at first, we have natural immunity, and this is going to be like physical barriers, chemical barriers, and resident non pathological organism. It just sounds like barriers, right? Acquired immunity, this is going to be, it happens after their first invasion by a foreign organism. So this is the development of circulating immunoglobulins, formation of activated lymphocytes, and the newborn primary dependent on 3 immunoglobulins, which is IgG, IgA, and IgM. Okay, I'll let her talk.
Maternal antibodies are provided until about 6 months of age, and then IgG crosses the placenta. Natural immunity.
So mom's immunity is good for about 6 months. So that is another reason why we don't give live vaccines like varicella until they're at 1 year. To make sure that when they give that injection that it's not mom's antibodies or immunity is not going to attack that organism.
Immunities such as physical barriers like intact skin, mucous membranes, and chemical barriers, which consist of gastric acid and digestive enzyme. IgG is the major immune globulin. It's the most abundant, making up about 80% of all circulating antibodies. It's found in serum and interstitial fluid. It's the only class able to cross the placenta, and with that active placental transfer beginning around 20 to 22 weeks of gestation, there's no other immune globulin that crosses the placenta.
IgG makes up 80% of the neonate's immune system. It's like, did you listen or not?
Skin system, so this is a protective barrier between the body and environment. Skin makes up approximately 13% of the body weight, in contrast to about 3% of body weight in adults. It's the largest organ, and it's vulnerable to injury and infections. It is pH neutral. Its most important function is to protect the body from the environment. It limits the loss of water, prevents absorption from harmful agents, protects thermoregulation and fat storage, and protects against physical trauma. As a newborn skin is exposed to air, the epidermal development accelerates. And then neurological. So the development follows a cephalocaudal or proximal distal pattern. Remember, the cephalocaudal trend or the cephalocaudal gradient of growth refers to the pattern of changing spatial proportions over time during growth. So an example of this would be the gradual growth in head size in relation to the growing size of the human during growth. So head to toe growth. The proximal distal pattern refers to the head and trunk development. An example of this is an infant's need to control the arm against gravity before being able to reach for a toy. Newborns do have an acute sense of hearing, smell, taste, touch, and vision. Hearing is developed at birth. There's evidence by the newborn's response to noise or by turning their head, especially to their mother's voice, or household people who live in their household. They'll respond to their voice by turning their head toward it. Vision is the least mature sense at birth. An infant can typically only see about 8 to 10 inches away, and it still will be blurry, but that's a cradle hold. So if you kind of just remember your breastfeeding positions, that cradle hold, the eyes, mom's eyes to baby's eyes will be about 8 to 10 inches. But the baby does have the ability to fix eyes on someone or something. They can follow and they can be alert, which all of that indicates an intact nervous system. So it's kind of how we check for their to see if their neural system is intact. Are they making eye contact? Are they following things? Are they alert? Touch is evidenced by the newborn's ability to respond to tactile stimuli and pain. And a newborn can distinguish between sweet and sour by 72 hours of age. We're going to talk
Sweet and sour at 72 hours of age. Wow. The neonate is typically born with all 5 acute senses. I feel like that's true, but it's probably wrong. It's cute.
We're going to talk about, you'll see pictures of these reflexes in chapter 18. And I'll just kind of go over them, but there's different reflexes that indicate neurological development and function. And we'll just go through them then because it's easier to kind of see the picture.